a singular Bud Light can that moved discourse for an entire month where Republicans were shooting at Bud Light cans. Remember? That was weird. That is what we mean when we say y'all are weird. And I'm glad the Democratic Party is finally listening to that.
Agenda couldn't get any more ridiculous. The party rallying behind Kamala Harris by leaning into the word weird to attack Donald Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance. And
Come on, Janine, tell us how not weird you are.
Attack against Trump if she were ever to face him on the debate stage.
Well, it's just plain weird.
Oh, they hate it. Oh, this is good.
That's the box you put that in, right?
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
That is weird behavior.
More extreme, more weird, more erratic.
I mean, on the other side, they're just weird.
The 32 ounces of weird.
Donald Trump and his weirdo running mate.
And by the way, they are weird.
It is bizarre. It's weird. It is weird.
J.D. Vance, just dumb Vance, is pretty weird.
J.D. Vance, brushing off the attack, says, keep them coming.
It doesn't hurt my feelings. Look, the price of admission, meaning the price of getting to serve the people of this country, is that's with everything that they have. I think it's an honor.
And the media's honeymoon with Kamala is far from over. New York Magazine is out with this cover of Harris and her Democrat cheerleaders titled, Welcome to Camelot. Camelot. All right. Okay, so I'll start with you,
weird.
Brian. They're changing. I mean, we were extremist, we were radical, and now we're just weird. Why are they softening the terminology when we needed to be deprogrammed? We were a cult. Now we're weird.
I could give my opinion. I'm not sure what's behind it. I wasn't in part of that think tank. But I will say this. The whole democracy is at stake was not working. But saying that Donald Trump and he's going to overthrow democracy wasn't working. The trying to put him in jail.
That's not true. It was a
working.
very successful landing. It was a very successful line of attack.
So let's make him weird. And I thought that Donald Trump Jr. put out a couple of videos that said, I'll give you weird. Kamala Harris giving her pronouns before a big speech to Chris Cuomo before a major thing. And to talk about some of her stances when it comes to AOC, saying that we should start taxing people 80%. She's like, you know what? That's a good, innovative idea. That's kind of weird. Also, I think outside Jesse, most of us are weird. Outside Jesse. Most of us have a little bit of thing that's a little non-traditional. And I think by calling people weird, that'll make them more relatable.
Is this Dana, a part of their effort to appeal to Gen Z because, you know, they may buy into that?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe.
This is literally, dude, no. This is actually an appeal to the suburbs.
Is not thinking for yourself and just listening to the bat signal and saying, okay, today we call them weird. Got it. And then everybody does it. I think it's so bizarre. I'd rather just think for myself. I also think that it's amorphous language. It's like, well, weird can be good, right? I guess. But I've also thought online has been pretty interesting to say J.D. Vance is weird. And then you click on the picture and it's some like craziness on the left. So I don't know where this is all going. I think that both sides are trying to land on how they want to define each other now because the race is different.
Well, could it be, Jesse, that people are just tired of the name calling? And
I'm not tired of it. I love the name calling, Judge, and I like laughing, but I guess we're going to have to go with, what's the new one? Crazy? It's hard to keep up with, but these are good. Listen, I think probably November 6th, the Democrats are going to look back at this landslide, shellacking that they just got handed and think, why did I waste 3 days in late July calling the Trump people weird? The only way Kamala Harris has a shot.
Because the policy prescriptions and the positions you have are gross.
From Joe Biden.
They're gross. On social issues, you guys are weird as
because there's nowhere.
You literally are not even remotely interested in like running a competent administration, a competent campaign. Yeah. You think they'll start saying Holocaust Harris is a super last-ditch effort? Oh, my God.
I agree.
Maybe.
When I saw
Probably
Trump
not.
demolish Joe Biden for 90 minutes, I didn't see him weird. When I saw Trump go like this, fight after surviving a bullet, I didn't think weird. Most people don't see Donald Trump.
That's not what they're talking about, big dog.
We can play it all day. Look at the Biden White House. You got cocaine, you got rabid dogs, you got secret Parkinson's doctors, you have Dylan. All up in that place. It's political projection. They leaked something. Trump was going to call her weird.
Dylan? Oh, do you mean Dylan Mulvaney? Thank you for proving the point. There you go. Thank you for proving the point. That's precisely what people mean when they say, oh, remember that one trans influencer that was on a singular Bud Light can? Remember that one trans influencer that was on a singular Bud Light can that moved discourse for an entire month where Republicans were shooting at Bud Light cans? Remember? That was weird. That is what we mean when we say y'all are weird. And I'm glad the Democratic Party is finally listening to that. Let's see what my liberal darling has to say.
A very good week in terms of coverage, but she's just flat out had a good week. She's done really effective rallies, her team of surrogates, and that's where weird comes from. It comes from Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota, who has a very plain speaking way about him, and he was giving an interview, and he said they're just weird, and then it caught on from there. And I think that people are sick of the vitriol. They are sick of hearing that it's the end of the earth if X thing happens. People did live through 4 years of Donald Trump and came out the other side of it.
Walt started their weird narrative, and it's good.
Don't feel that he's the existential
Well, let's be
threat.
real. It's not Waltz that started it. I would say that myself, the Chapo boys, like we've been saying this for years, and Waltz is the guy who, the first time I've seen like a Democrat in a position of power actually utilize that language and deploy it against the Republican
Trump
Party.
supporter. The late, great
We have
Hannibal
literally,
Lecter
like normal
doesn't
people that
resonate.
are not in the Democratic Party have been saying this for quite some
About
time.
batteries. Like, Donald Trump is not a normal human, and I guess it's only Jesse that is normal in all of this.
Should we like
but,
pull up the tapes of Kamala Harris
So-
and
but you can
space
play that
and
game,
weird? I mean, I just think that
but it's
You want to talk batteries?
But if you-
I mean, you guys
I
spent
don't wanna talk
$10
batteries.
trillion.
I wanna-
You installed 8.
Oh,
That's weird.
what I want to talk
That's
about
not what's weird.
is that
That's weird.
whatever the strategy is now, it is
No, weird is like you saying they brought Dylan to the White House and assuming that people know what that is, and some people will know what that is. We know what that is because we're brain rotted. Like I'm clued in on what these guys talk about on a regular basis. I watch their show all the time. That's why I know how weird the Republicans are. Bro just name dropped a singular trans TikToker from 8 months ago by her first name. That's it. Not even like her last name. Just said Dylan in the White House. Okay. And the expectation is that like, that's how hyper folk. Oh, dude.
Mocking
Wait, let's continue.
Christians and the Last
Let's continue.
Supper. Here
Show
we
us
go.
how weird you are more. Culture. Show us how weird you are with this culture war, dude. Oh, they're mocking Christians by doing artistic demonstrations. We want to ban them. Go ahead. Make my day, dude. Okay? The Republicans forgot that their like worst policy positions are just genuinely gross. And like you're supposed to do dog whistles, dumbass. I think Donald Trump unshackled that to a certain degree, but he at least has like he is telegenic enough and charismatic enough to the base to be able to carry that conversation. But when you guys do it, you do it too analytically. You do it too critically. You do it in a way where you're too nerdy about it. You're doing the Elizabeth Warren style, JD Vance style, Ron DeSantis style, like, let me show you how the sausage is made about the process that I go through in order to advocate for the horrifying things that I advocate for. And people, when they see that, when they scratch the surface and see what's underneath it, they go, ew, that's gross. This is why the Democrats are finally calling what Republicans are doing weird. Okay? It's a really good way to basically say you guys are being, without saying the word, or you're being really transphobic without saying the word, because if you go, oh, you're transphobic, then it alludes to the hysterical, like blue-haired social justice warrior tropes. But when you just say it's weird, you're like a normal person, and many other normal people also feel this way, right? And it's a positive way to reframe the conversation. It's positive for the Democrats. It's a strong way to reframe the conversation without immediately being like, ooh, that's right. Ooh, that's bigoted. Ooh, that's whatever. You're disarming them because there's a immediate, multiple centuries backed retort for when someone says white people hate being called, okay? Especially when they have less opinions. They think it's worse than being, they think it's certainly worse than saying the N-word, right? But when you say they're being weird, it's a little different. It's new. They're like, wait, well, maybe I also kind of feel like these guys are being gross. Even if they technically agree with the broader ideological positions, this is what I've been trying to explain to people. There is a level of permissible misogyny and permissible, right, that is broadly popular in the Republican Party's base of support. That's why Lee Atwater talked about not being able to say the N-word post-civil rights movement and changing the discourse around other things, policy positions that basically dog whistle, that put black people on a worse position overall, that white people will definitely vote on. These guys unshackled the dog whistles. They're doing bullhorns. And yeah, Trump to a certain degree is good at making that work, especially with respect to like immigration, especially when there isn't a solid counter narrative on that immigration front, then they can get away with it. But on these other issues, especially on abortion, especially on issues that pertain to women's bodily autonomy, the moment that you come across as misogynistic, the moment that you come across like you're restrictive on what women want to do, the moment that you lean into the Handmaid's Tale or Handmaid's Tale, whatever the fuck called, the Handmaid's Tale narrative, and say, no, we do want to do that, you're basically making the rest of the country look at you and go, that's odd, bro. Why are you doing that?
Taking home the gold medal for being...
Tim Pool clips, JD Vance. Are you...
Listen to the guy. He's talking about Hannibal Lecter.
Just a warning to chatters. Mike from PA pointed out that's a scam pack, just so you know. Yeah, I don't really like the ad that much. I'll be honest. It's a swing and a miss for me, but rare Haas wrong moment. The ad was great. It'll work. Nah. No, the ad, I don't think the ad plays that well. Yeah, you don't have to make up dudes and play that role when the dudes are right there.
And shocking sharks and just whatever crazy thing pops into his mind. That is weird behavior. And I don't think you call it anything else.
I think Donald Trump, I know him, and he's probably sitting and watching the TV, and every day it comes out Vance has done something more extreme, more weird, more erratic.
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
You may have noticed Donald Trump has been resorting to some wild lies about my record, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
Joining me now, Theron Johnson, former Southern Regional Director for Obama's 2012 campaign and a Democratic strategist. Susan Del Percio is a Republican strategist and MSNBC political analyst. Okay, Theron, what's with the weird?
Well, I'll tell you this, Chris. You're right. A lot of surrogates, the vice president herself has chosen to use this word. And I think it's a good way to describe the former president. Now, one thing that I know for sure, there are probably 10 other words that they want to use that could describe the former president. But weird seems to have a sort of tone to it and it's sticking. Many Democrats believe that there are unorthodox things about Donald Trump before he even ran for president. But we remember.
Dude, can you imagine how stupid the Democratic Party's strategy prior to this was? Which was, we need a strong Republican Party. Why can't we have a strong Republican Party? As though there is any such reality where there was a strong Republican Party, or that it would be a good thing to have a strong Republican Party. Like, think about how stupid they were for so long. Like, it just, oh my God, I cannot. It's just
how he ran early on to destroy the Republican Party. Yes, he won in 2016. And there were a lot of weird things that he said while he was president in his 4 years. And so it's got to be something that the polling data shows resonates not only with Democrats, but it also resonates with working class Americans. And this is what this race is going to come down to, is that working class Americans of all races have got to figure out who they want to vote for in this race. And I believe that Kamala Harris and her team and the surrogates are honing in on this message, because I will challenge any Republican to have a debate with me or any other Democratic strategist, and we can write down at least 25 things that the former president has either said or done that can be classified as weird. But that's not ultimately what the campaign is going to focus on for the duration, but it is something now that I think that is resonating with the base and those working class Americans.
I think, Susan, that Theron used an interesting word, which is tone, right? Something we know that voters, particularly those middle voters, have talked about. They talked about it 4 years ago. They're talking about it now. Let's hear, conversely, some of the things Donald Trump has said.
She was a bum 3 weeks ago. She was a bum.
A bum.
A failed vice president and a failed administration. So now we have a new candidate to defeat the most incompetent, unpopular, and far-left vice president in American history. She's a radical left lunatic. She has no clue. She has no clue. She's evil.
Evil, lunatic, incompetent, bum, as opposed to weird. Does that speak to those voters who, frankly, are exhausted by the level of vitriol in politics today?
Well, Donald Trump sounds plain old bonkers. I'm going to add that as one of the words we can use in addition to weird. And the problem for Donald Trump is the campaign may have adjusted to a Harris candidacy, but Donald Trump hasn't. He hasn't figured out what to say about her. He keeps trying these lines, and they're not going to work, Chris, because at this point, he's got to go for the middle. That's where the fight is. And he's not going to get, especially independent women in the suburbs, with that kind of language.
I mean, you talked about this again, Theron, as, being part of the tone. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that many Democrats were using that same word at the same time. But honestly, what do you think it buys Democrats? What does it buy the campaign, and for how long?
Well, it reminds Democrats that we cannot underestimate a Trump candidacy. I'm not saying that we took him for granted in 2016, but there were many people, including myself, that thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win that race. And so we learned from our mistake. We saw 4 years of him doing the name callings. I mean, what you just showed, Chris, is only a snapshot into what the former president has said about not just Vice President Harris, but other women who he has attacked along the way. And so, again, it's a phased approach. It's driving up momentum. It's a very sort of politically correct way to describe the former president's behavior. And I think you'll hear more harsh words used to describe him as the campaign goes on, and definitely at the convention. But again, I go back to what my colleague just said. We know that the goal here is 270 electoral votes. Her choice for vice president by August 7th will play an added role into that. But ultimately, there's got to be data that shows how do you motivate the base, but more importantly, what are those moderate independent voters, those working class Americans of all races want to hear about this man, and just compare the two. You can say a lot of things about Vice President Kamala Harris. Yes, they're going to talk about how she laughs, and they're going to talk about her being a woman. The sexism will be on Front Street going forward. But ultimately, I think that the American people is looking forward to the future. And who's the best person to continue what Joe Biden has done for this country and make it even better going forward?
Yeah, one of the interesting things, I think, in this campaign is how memes that people on the right used, they thought, to attack Harris actually have been sort of adopted, especially by a lot of younger voters, which we know they can be unpredictable, right? Mm-hmm. So she seems to be changing her social media narrative. Let me play for you a TikTok that just went out.
Hey, Kamala, what are we going to say to Donald Trump in November?
Bye, bye, bye.
Melissa Ryan, who worked in digital strategy for progressive campaigns for Democrats, told NBC, "This is a reversal of what I saw in 2016 when it felt like Trump had just taken over."
I hate it. I hate this. It's so cringe. Don't do this. Like, be serious, man. Be serious. Be serious. Be serious. Be serious. Don't run this 2016 ass like Hillary Clinton. Look at all the liberal elites. They're all on board with us shit. Please just run a normal campaign. Oh my God. Everybody remembers the Pokemon go to the polls. Like, what are we doing? Be serious. Don't try to lean into the memes too much. Just let it happen organically. Oh my God, dude. I think Americans want like normal, competent leadership more than we care to admit. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that the Democrats should be like, look at how many Hollywood celebrities love us and like we're hanging out with them. Just be like, listen, I'm running for president, okay? I'm not running to win daytime Emmys like Donald Trump. I'm the president going forward, okay? What you should do in that circumstance is you'd be like, here are the things I want to do. Here are the things they want to take away from you. Here are the things I'm going to defend. And here are the things I want to do. Just be like, look, they're weird and they're constantly talking about culture wars, and they don't actually care about putting money on the table, okay? Putting food on the table, putting money in your pockets. You feel me? Like, Americans care about not seeing the top of the hour ad break. They want to have more. They want to have more disposable income so they can use it at the HasanAbi broadcast. That's what Americans give a shit about. You feel me? Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break, and Americans are like, God damn it, dude, I don't want to see that. Hot take, that TikTok was cringe in a good way? No. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky.
Over the internet. In 2024, who wins the...
I disagree. Kamala's already seen as a fun auntie. This just solidifies that. I don't think it's going to affect her. That TikTok wasn't for you. It was for the younger audience. What? You think younger? No. That TikTok is the most millennial coded TikTok of all time. What the fuck are you talking about? You're so unimaginably wrong, dude. I know you're trying to call me old here, but that's crazy. What the bro said Gen Z, and then they showed In Sync. The younger audiences are, the less they give a shit about voting. That's number one. And number two, the younger the audiences are, the more clued in they are on like marketing. When something smells wrong, they hate it. It comes across as cringe and inauthentic. And I think that that ad and ads like that, just like the Hillary Clinton campaign of 2016, had a lot of cringe and inauthentic moments that I think really grossed people out, beyond the fact that, like, obviously Hillary Clinton was seen as a demon for good reason.
The internet, how important is it?
Well, who wins it in a positive way is Vice President Harris. She's going to keep out there with her message. And it should stand out that she's nearly 20 years his junior. So when we talk about the future, younger people, seeing Donald Trump on TikTok just really doesn't work. So,
but also, there in some of these, I think there's a question of who's having fun, and it seems like
wrong. Donald Trump is an organic content creator. Many people don't know this because you were probably too young. But Donald Trump used to post vines on the regular. Okay, he knows how to make short form content. He knows how to tweet. He knows how to also make and he has a pretty solid team in terms of like social media. Donald Trump's hanging out with the Milk Boys before he ran for president. Like, you guys probably don't know this. But yeah, Donald Trump used to make vines all the time. No, he is like more organic on there than Kamala Harris is. Straight up. I'll stand by that. And people being like, oh, Kamala Harris is having fun on TikTok. Like, no.
People are looking
for
fun.
Energy and going forward have something to bring. And just to follow up on what Theron said, you know, Harris gets to introduce her vice president by August 7th. That's going to be a lot of media and a lot of press. Then she rolls into a convention on August 19th, and that's going to dominate. And just a month later, Chris, people start voting. So this is going to be really difficult for Donald Trump to break through.
Okay, guys, one of the most devastating intros I've ever heard on Fox News about someone they're about to have on the broadcast, and that someone being the vice presidential candidate for the Republican Party. Okay, this is legitimately like blistering. Listen to what Trey Gowdy, consistently the worst haircut in Congress, had to say about J.D. Vance before interviewing J.D. Vance.
In a moment, we'll speak with Senator J.D. Vance. We have never met before, but we have many friends in common who tell me that he is smart and he is talented and he is more than capable. None is perfect, no, not one. That's what the good book says. And the American people are forgiving if we ask. Let's welcome GOP vice presidential candidate Senator J.D. Vance from the great state of Ohio. Welcome, Senator, and thank you.
Wait, no. This isn't it. Where's the intro? Bro, listen to this.
Many times, and you should too, in full. I've watched that interview many times, and you should too, in full, and draw your own conclusions. When that interview surfaced, two things leapt to my mind. Those of us who talk for a living make mistakes. We say things that in hindsight we might phrase differently or better or not at all. And then I thought about a stormy day at Reagan National Airport where I met two women desperately trying to get home to South America. I was trying to get home to South Carolina. We spent the whole day together, finally making it to Charlotte, and then somehow we got them on a flight to Houston. They were headed to visit family in South America before returning to their new home called America. And when we parted ways, they said they'd like to pray for me as their way of saying thanks for the day spent together. And I assured them it's too late to help me. But I do have a friend who's expecting, and she got some tough news about her unborn child. Would they please pray for her instead? And they did, and they still do to this day. They're Catholic nuns, childless, dedicated to God, love this country, living lives of service to others. And it's not just Catholic nuns. Some of the finest people I know don't have children. Teachers and guidance counselors and lawyers and doctors, and they love other people's children enough to teach and guide and protect and minister to them.
Yeah, you didn't see that coming, did you? A lot of you went, oh, my man's just yapping, he's weird. And then he just swerved into a direction where you were like, what the? Bro, that is crazy, dude. That's like Kendrick Lamar's
children. Teachers and guidance counselors and lawyers and doctors, and they love other people's children enough to teach and guide and protect and minister to them. Some people choose not to have children. Others desperately want them, but they can't. In a moment, we'll speak with Senator J.D. Vance. We have never met before, but we have many friends in common who tell me that he is smart and he is talented and he is more than capable. None is perfect, no, not one. That's what the good book says. And the American people are forgiving if we ask.
Dude, he literally, like, that's an insane opener before this intro, before this interview. That's how he introduced J.D. Vance, by absolutely daggering him.
Thank you for joining us. I've heard from many women, most of whom are conservative, and they would very much like to vote for President Trump and you, but Senator, they are disappointed. So nuns and priests aside, do you agree that there are people who very much love this country and are invested in its future, but they also happen to be childless?
Oh, of course I believe that, Trey. And if you look at the full context of what I said, it's very clear the Democrats have tried to take this thing out of context and blow it out of proportion.
That's weird because it seems like you're saying Trey Gowdy took it out of context as well. You also doubled down on it on Megyn Kelly last week, which was crazy. So I don't know if you are actually, if you are legitimately trying to run the they took it out of context line.
Which is what they always do, Trey, because they don't have an agenda to run on themselves. And if you look at what the American people are most concerned about, Trey, it's not an out-of-context quip that I made 3 years ago. It's the fact that Kamala Harris, the border czar, opened the American southern border. It's the fact that the Democratic Party has become explicitly anti-family in some of their policies. In fact, you just heard Kamala Harris in a Surface clip recently talk about how it was a bad idea to have kids because of climate change anxiety. So really what I'm trying to get at here, Trey, is...
Yeah, no, that was good. That was a good deflection. He's like... Now that I said I was clip chimp, let me turn around and clip chimp Kamala Harris. Not gonna work, big dog. The narrative is set in, especially considering that you've literally doubled down on it last week.
Is that it's important for us to be pro-family as a country. Of course, for a whole host of reasons, it's not going to work out for some people. We should pray for those people and, of course, have sympathy for them. I still think that that means we should be pro-family, generally speaking, as a party. And I think that our country has become particularly hard for parents, especially under the policies of Kamala Harris.
All right, Senator, I want to ask you about the other part of that again, is making news. But I'm not asking you because it's making news. I'm asking you more because people are calling me who very much would like to support you and President Trump. Dr. Connie Rice does not have children. Neither does my friend, your colleague, Tim Scott. George Washington did not have biological children, and neither did James Madison. So I think you will agree with me that direct offspring are not necessary to be fully invested in the future of this country.
Of course not, Trey. I do think that being a parent actually has a profound effect on somebody's perspective, and we should honor and respect that. But there are a whole host of people who don't have children for a whole host of reasons, and they certainly are great people who can participate fully in the life of this country. And that's not what I said, Trey. If you look at what the left has done, they have radically taken this out of context and, in fact, aggressively lied about what I've said. What I do think is true, Trey, and this goes to the heart of what I was talking about 3 years ago in those comments, but it's going to be something I continue to talk about, is that the left has increasingly become explicitly anti-child and anti-family. They've encouraged young families not to have children at all because of concerns over climate change. They've suggested that people who do have children are somehow being selfish, when I think being a...
This, by the way, is not going to work because the Democratic Party's signature legislative agenda item right now is expanding the child tax credit, which the Republican Party, alongside Joe Manchin, tanked, right? That's why I hate Joe Manchin, by the way. That is and I've said this time and time again, the fact that Joe Manchin was a spoiler on the Dem side is insane because it kind of cut into the Republican Party is objectively anti-child expansion of child tax credits. But even then, a singular Republican could have turned the outcome around on that front. They still can, as a matter of fact. It's still in the docket. That's a thing that the Republicans could currently vote on if they genuinely were on board with it. Okay? So the idea that this is not something that Biden has advocated for or that Kamala Harris is currently not advocating for is silly. They both have, and they both continue to do so. So claiming that the Democrats are anti-child and that you are actually pro-child or pro having more children when you have tried to add additional taxes to those who already pay more taxes because they don't have dependents to claim is ridiculous. When are you going to face the facts? Kamala voters are just cat ladies? Yeah, good one. It's a disastrous way to navigate through this space. Okay? It is a disastrous way to try and appear as though you are even somewhat normal. It is utterly objectionable. It is reprehensible. It's not normal. Here it is. Schumer making Republicans vote against the child tax credit. The bipartisan package includes an extension of the expanded child tax credit, which could lift 500,000 children out of poverty, according to estimates. It almost certainly does not have enough GOP support to pass. Big help to vulnerable Democrats. Look at that. I don't know what happened. Chat. But I think the Democrats got hit in the head or something, they all collectively fell and then accidentally arrived at competent leadership. I genuinely don't know what the fuck's going on with the Democratic Party, but this is so not like Chuck Schumer. This is Mitch McConnell behavior. I don't know what is going on here, but this is good policy and good politics. Very unlike, it is very uncharacteristic of the Democratic Party. They can't help themselves. No, you misunderstood. I said your feelings. My feelings are very important and must be handled gently like a tiny baby hummingbird. This whole their weird argument from the Democrats is dumb and juvenile. This is a presidential election, not a high school prom queen contest. It's also a tad ironic coming from the party that preaches diversity and inclusion. Win on policy if you can, but cut the crap, please. Bookmarking this for future use to bully someone, you mean grow up? This you? Bro, big ass F word piece of that's awesome. And that's from 58 minutes ago too. He popped off on that. That's great. Did you see Turkey might invade Israel? Yeah, right. All right, let's go back to the hogwatch thing. I, for one, am a little worried. I will admit, I, for one, am a little worried. I'm not going to lie that hogwatch is becoming more normalized. I don't like that much. I feel like they're taking my toys away. Okay. In some respects, I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm glad that, the Democrats are actually fighting back a little bit. Having said that, however, this is my thing. I'm a bit of a hipster on this front.
Alex Castellanos, one of the brightest political commentators I know, and he's made the point that the burden on the vice president is to prove to the American people that she's a serious person. Thatcher didn't giggle. Golda Meir didn't giggle. When you look at the polls, fair or not, many Americans, and again, this may not be fair, but I'm just telling you what the polls show. Many Americans think that the vice president is a little bit of a ding-dong, that she's not serious.
This ding-dong, Senator, has risen in the polls, and I'm wondering if the strategy to focus on her laugh or the former president calling her nasty and crazy really promotes that that push to show she's not up to the job. Does it look petty? Does it say to judge her on this level looks like a strategy that could backfire on Republicans? By all means, get her on the issues that matter, like you've talked about abortion, to clarify what this Supreme Court push might be about.
Two books that have been much discussed. All Boys Aren't Blue. And I will quote from it. I put some on and got him on his knees. And I began.
Clean version? Oh, this sucks. Bro, you can't do the clean version of this. The whole point is it's not clean. You know what I'm saying? Hold on here. Listen.
Thank you, Mr. All Boys Aren't Blue.
But to focus on this other stuff just looks dumb.
Well, what I was going to say, Neil, if I could finish my thought, when you look at the polls, fair or not, what the polls, the crosstabs show, is that those Americans who have an opinion of the vice president think that, number one, she's a bit of a ding-dong, and number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco
that member of the loon wing.
Yeah. Mr. If you have a problem with the police, call a crackhead. The ding-dong and the loonies. Mr. Depictions of getting the ass and receiving a blowjob, read it out loud and did a softcore audiobook readout in Congress is over here being like, they're ding-dongs.
Senator, that I'm not, casting aspersions either way. That member of the loon wing is now, dead even with Donald Trump in one battle state ground after another. Now, I'm not saying that might last. I am saying that this loon is surging, and if the Republican approach to her is to treat her like a loon and a cackle, and she is just an empty suit, I wonder how far that'll go.
Well, I'm sorry if that offends you, Neil, but I'm just telling you what the people of America think.
I'm just telling you what the polls are showing right now. Now, if you think they're short-lived, they're not going to last, and you're okay with this approach of talking about her laugh and nasty and disrespectful and all this stuff that Donald Trump has said, you don't think part of that is going to get you at the polls?
I'm telling you what I think the American people think right now, based on the polling that I've seen. And let me say it again. I think that fair or not, and it may upset you, but fair or not, the American people think, those who have an opinion of the vice president think that, number one, she's a little bit of a ding-dong. She's not a serious person. They've had one vegetable in chief. They don't want to know. She believes in strength, our national security strength through weakness, that if we just sit down with our enemies and have a cup of hot cocoa and give them a hug, that they'll be nice to us.
The accent right there, Louisiana. All right. The chatter that was asking said, not American. What kind of beautiful accent is this Senator John Kennedy presenting here? And it's Louisiana, baby.
I don't know if she suggested the cup of hot coffee. You raised a number of very clear issues, substantive issues that could be debated. I guess all I'm saying, for all the problems and calling her a loon and all that, and I get it. I know it's political season and that happens on both sides.
I didn't call her a loon, Neil. You're putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
I said
she's a ding-dong. I didn't call her a loony. I said she's a ding-dong and a loon. I didn't say loony, I said loon.
She's a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party, and there is a loon wing of the Democratic Party.
What's the difference between the loon wing and being a loon? The only reason why I'm saying it is, if that is so, and you have a lot of American people who have now taken another look at her, and maybe it's short-lived, to your point, Senator, she is running even with Donald Trump, and I'm just wondering about the approach you're taking, and it's very artful, don't get me wrong, and you raise a lot of substantive issues. It's going to come back to bite your hinds, isn't it? Aren't you concerned about that?
I'm telling you what I think the American people think. It may not be what I think, and it may not be what you think, but this is Washington.
Then what do you think the polls that shows that she's running even with Donald Trump, regardless of what either you or I think?
Well, the polls that I have seen, the most recent polls, you can't just look at the top lines, Neil. You've got to look at the crosstabs. And if you look at the crosstabs...
If you look at the crosstabs, they're saying she's a loon. A loony. a Looney Tune. Looney and Tooney. That's what they're saying. The crosstabs are saying this. Let me tell you what the crosstabs are saying. They're saying she's a ding-dong. 100% of Americans think she's a ding-dong.
And really drill down and see what people think. Let me say it again. The polling that I've seen shows that many Americans think that the vice president is not a serious person. As I said, that she's a bit of a ding-dong. And number two, that she is a member of the loon wing of the Democratic Party. She's a San Francisco Democrat. She's just like Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, except without the bartending experience. She is
Ocasio-Cortez.
Do you worry how that, Senator?
Wait, is this the same clip?
Do you worry how that comes across? And maybe you draw no distinction between a female candidate and a male one, and that's fair game. But that this could hurt you with female voters with these type of comments.
Well, let me say it again.
Sure.
The vice president is a candidate for president of the United States. I don't care about her gender. Neil, maybe you do, but I don't. I don't care about her race. I care about her
Then
competence.
why call her a ding-dong?
And I'm telling you what the polling shows. I'm telling you what the polling shows. And it does. And I'll be glad to sit down with you and walk you through the polls.
Please do, because I never know when it's constructive to call people names, Senator. On the left or the right. But
I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings, but let me.
I want to see the ding dong poll, dude. We gotta see the ding dong poll. You don't understand. I saw the polls. 98% of Americans say Kamala is a ding dong. They were polled on it.
Let me say it again.
Senator, you keep bringing it back to my feelings. My feelings matter a little. All I'm telling you is if you think you can gain this November calling people names, I don't know how far that goes, left or right, but we'll see. It's still early, to your point.
Your feelings seem to me like they matter to you a lot, Neil, and I'm trying to be objective here. Let me say it again.
Are you really?
That's so funny to be like, I'm objectively calling her a ding dong and claiming that Americans are calling her objectively a ding dong. You can say it again, over and over again.
Really being objective, Senator? I just think you've got a bash-a-thon, a name calling at her. If you call that being objective, I don't know. But Senator, I do want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Neil. I hope you have a better day.
Yeah, so do I. Hope you have a better day. We'll have more after that.
I mean, Fox News, but yeah, that's Neil Cavado. It's not like it's early. It's early in the day. Okay, that's different. You have to remember, this is like Fox News polls are reliable and solid, and Fox News reporting earlier in the day is also like it's like closer to like a normal news broadcast with obvious right-wing leanings. The other guy that was like that is obviously Chris Wallace was another guy like that on Fox News, Chris Wallace, and then he left. Also here's Newsmax having a wonderful time with the JD Vance stuff.
Using that term weird, by the way, we continue to point that out. Kamala HQ, that's her campaign on X, just put out 3 minutes ago.
Dude, I feel like when someone calls Twitter X, I'm not kidding. I feel like it reveals a lot about like what their worldview is. You know what I mean? Is a red flag. Like there is a pretty high likelihood that you're talking to a conservative. I have been fortunate enough not to see a single person, by the way. Okay, not to be around a single person who unironically calls it X.
A quote from JD Vance of him saying, "I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally," unquote, from JD Vance. They quoted him.
I'm a journalist, and our style or prescribed language of things to say is X, and it hurts me. I feel like journalists get around that, though, by being like X, formerly known as Twitter, in parentheses. Or maybe that's the style Bible of certain outlets. But I always see that. They won't just like let it be X. They'll always put in parentheses, formerly known as Twitter. Some style guys have switched to just X now. Dude, don't give up. Don't give up on it. Don't do it.
Now I got it.
All right, let's finish this.
Him on that, the Harris campaign, and calling it, "This is weird behavior." Weird. Everything about, again, Vance is weird. Does Vance actually have a problem? And then how about the campaigning using that term weird for Republicans? Using that term.
Do they have a problem? Trump Jr. said tweets were referring to it when he was coked out with Vance. JD Vance really made his values clear. He does not see women as equals. Let's see what my goat has to say about JD.
I gotta take a minute to talk about the guy who joined his ticket a couple weeks ago. Oh, you heard of him, did you? JD Vance, yeah. He's really made his values clear lately. He does not see women as equals. He does not want everyone to have a seat at the table. He's scared of us. Because Democrats, we want everyone to have a seat at the table. I mean, even cat lovers and dog lovers alike. Now I got
The Michigander accent is making my Ohio self feel some kind of way. Okay.
You might have
Let's talk about the DEI.